We are well into the month of July by now, and it is the birth month of Julius Caesar. Now, before July was named after Julius Caesar, it was originally named Quintilis, and this was before 44 BC. July was also known for political transformation. Both the Americans and the French were quite adamant on inciting a revolution for freedom this month. Hello and welcome to Kaleidoscope. This is your weekly dose of positive, daring, different. Ahead on the show, from MasterChef Australia, we have Sav Perera, those invasive species, and we visit a turtle sanctuary. Did you know that Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn? Remember to subscribe, follow and like us for more. A massive thank you to our amazing partners, Srilanka Life, CDB and the Daily Morning. You are wonderful.
CDB Hybrid Leasing. Enjoy exclusive interest rate and much more for hybrids, plug-in hybrids and EV vehicles.
Looking back at the week that was, this is CDB Snapshot. Sri Lanka's inflation goes up to 2.4% in June from May's 1.6%. The IMF is set to review Sri Lanka's economic progress next week. 58% of Sri Lanka's land could potentially be used for renewable energy. As we gear up for high-speed internet, Elon Musk makes plans to visit Sri Lanka in August. Scientists find that oxygen is being produced in the deep sea without photosynthesis and sunlight. King Charles bestows a royal title on a goat breed, which will now be the Royal Golden Guernsey Goat.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome to Srilanka Life News Capsule. According to the EFL, 27% of birds, 66% of amphibians, 56% of mammals, 49% of freshwater fish, 59% of reptiles and 44% of flowering plant species are threatened by invasive alien species. Our biodiversity and everything that it brings us, tourism, economic advantages, agriculture, health, is being invaded. The Kumanavillu is one such, where the 500 acres of rich wetland is now threatened. The Federation of Environmental Organizations and the Parrotfish Collective are now on a mission to restore the habitat of the Kumanavillu, which they started this week. The co-founder of the Parrotfish Collective, Vinod Malvatta, gives more detail. Welcome, Vinod, once again to Kaleidoscope. How bad is the invasive species problem in Sri Lanka?
So it's actually much worse than you'd imagine. So for example, when we look at our protected areas, a lot of them are overrun with invasive species. Udawalawe National Park, for example, has about 50% of it overrun. We worked in Lunugam National Park, which is now part of Yala, and about 20% of the grassland was taken over. And then Min area, one of our premium elephant grazing habitats, about 20% of the grassland there was also taken over by invasive species. At the time we had an intervention, and then we've also looked at other parks. For example, we work in Baskamua, and in Baskamua we've seen there's 8 main water bodies there, and out of the 8, a lot of them, majority of them were actually covered with invasives, completely almost, some of them. So we're actually working there as well.
So you've started a cleanup at Kumanavillu. Why?
We saw a drop of numbers in the birds, so we started looking into it and we realized that a native creeper actually, which was acting almost in an invasive sense, had taken over some of the Kerala trees, mangrove trees that birds were nesting in. So that was causing the drop in the birds. And then we also noticed the proliferation of water hyacinth across the open water, which then meant that again the ecosystem wasn't working at its optimal, so the birds weren't really coming through. We've also noticed the shifting of the river mouth. The Moya cutters kind of shifted, so because of that the ecosystem has kind of gone from a brackish water ecosystem, which is a mix of salt and fresh water, into a predominantly freshwater ecosystem. So it's kind of changed the makeup of it as well. The idea, the conservation intervention there, is to take off some of the creepers and then cut them at base level, let them, we're not pulling them off the trees because of the labor cost, so we're actually leaving them on the trees for them to dry and fall off after that, and we're clearing some of the water hyacinth as well. We've already got the section that we cleared, we've had life returning, so it's hopefully the new section that we'll clear, there'll be more birds coming back.
Now, starting off something like this, there are obviously challenges. What are they?
Funds is a big one, funding, trying to get, and then trying to actually mobilize on the ground. It's not easy work. So it's actually just trial and error, trying to understand what the most effective way of clearing these invasive species are, and then coming back again to the maintenance cost. And it's not a one-time thing. Invasives, they will come back time and time. So it's also keeping up that maintenance. So it is very long-term work.
So thank you, Vinod, for all you're doing to make life better for all of us. And now let's take a look at our markets this week. At the Colombo Stock Exchange, the all-share price index continued to drop, with lack of investor interest reflected in the average daily turnover levels also dropping to below 1 billion rupees. Due to slowing economic activity, China's demand for oil dropped, but it continues to buy oil at greatly reduced prices from Russia, Iran and Iraq, leading to prices dropping below $80 per barrel. Meanwhile, gold prices are still close to record all-time highs of $2,400 per ounce, as investors and central banks across the world continue to invest in the precious metal. What is perhaps one of the most powerful reminders of the power of nature is happening right now. The driest desert on earth, that Atacama Desert, is going through the Desierto Florido, meaning the flowering desert. She's been taking social media over and our hearts by storm, and she recently hung up her apron with one of the most phenomenal performances on season 16 of MasterChef Australia as its third place finalist. She's Savithri or Sav Perera, and she's been taking Sri Lankan food places with some of the most mouth-watering dishes I've ever seen. She's a banking consultant by profession, or as she describes it, a means to an end. She's been innovating in the kitchen since she was 12, and she describes her cooking style as rustic and generous and, of course, colourful, just like her. She's made an impact in the MasterChef arena for being unapologetically proud of her Sri Lankan heritage and, of course, for being one of the most positive and bubbly contestants ever. Fresh off the heels of her remarkable achievement, Sav stopped by the studio for a quick chat on all things MasterChef and cooking. Now, you just missed out on being in the top 2 on MasterChef Australia, but no one can deny the fact that you were a culinary genius in that kitchen. What was your key takeaway from this?
For me, I think the key takeaway was the growth that happened on the show. One of my biggest reasons for being on there was because I did want to put myself out of the comfort zone into a space where I grew. And that was the biggest thing that I took away, the growth and obviously the friendships that we formed on the show as well.
And your best dish?
I think there were a few highlights. In terms of personal growth, I think the best dish was my Carolina Reaper and prawns, because that's something that I've never done in my life before. But I think still the lump rice that I made it's up there, because to do that in 90 minutes is utter madness, and I'm very proud of myself actually.
So you quit your job as a banking consultant to get on MasterChef. Was that decision an easy one for you?
It was not an easy decision to quit my job by any means, because it's still my livelihood. So you have to think about, like, how am I going to fund myself while I'm away? Everyone has bills to pay, and it's also walking away from stability, which is why it was such a big thing for me to do, because it's not just a personal decision, but it was disrupting my life as well. But I just told myself, if I don't do it now and if I don't push myself, I'm never going to do it, so I have to do it now.
So what have you learned about yourself while being on MasterChef? I've
thought a lot about what I've learned about myself, and I think the biggest thing is that I've learned about the capacity of my own resilience. I'm I am a bit of a princess. I don't like when things get too hard or too hot or too sweaty, and I'm like, yeah, that's not for me. But being in those pressure tests and like in those highly pressurized environments where you have no choice but to keep going, even when things have split and they're not working and like you're running out of time. I was just caught off guard by how unwilling I am to just give up, and that was a nice surprise for me.
Well, MasterChef is over. What's next for you?
What's next is hopefully taking this momentum that I have with Sri Lankan food and driving forwards with it. There's a lot of things that I want to do in Sri Lanka as well, because I think unfortunately Sri Lankan food within Sri Lanka is actually not treated like with a level of elegance, which is actually quite sad. And my problem is, if we ourselves are cheapening our own food, how do you expect people from other cultures to look in and appreciate its value as well? And a big part of me really honestly believes that, so you get that mindset where people will go out to eat and say, oh, I can make that at home, that's just a curry, I'm not going to pay that money for it. But the thing is, Sri Lankan food's easy to learn but very hard to master. So there's a lot of skills and technical knowledge that actually goes into making things really well. And if you think about it, a lot of that skills and knowledge are within women, like in the common kitchens of Sri Lanka. So you're also devaluing the labor of women, really, when you're saying, oh, I can just do that. Does that mean that what's cooked at home is not of value? So I think about that all the time. And I really want to contribute to that conversation about Sri Lankan food being elevated. It can be a really nice fine dining thing. You need to not treat it as a cheap thing. So that's really become the driving force. So hopefully planning to actually go into a few projects with people and parties and organizations that can actually make that happen, that have the reach, that have the right base. We'll see.
Turtles, cute and cuddly they may be, but please don't touch them unless you are trained in rescue efforts. Arun Mendis gave me the rundown on turtles when I visited the Koskoda Arun and Aman Turtle Conservation and Research Centre, which is a not-for-profit, by the way. This Turtle Conservation Centre is a labour of love, looking after and caring for turtles of all ages, from babies of just a few minutes old to one who is over 100. She was released recently. At any given time, about 200 baby turtles swim around in the tanks until they are ready to go out into the big wide ocean.
The reason we need the turtle hatchery is, especially here we take care of the eggs, and then we also release all the babies to the sea. Also we need to protect the injured turtles, so we also have to protect the turtles in the sea because they are endangered. People kill them, they get killed from plastic, and there's only like 7 species of turtles left in the world. So special plastic and illegal fishing with fishing nets are the 2 biggest reasons why they are being extinct. So that should be stopped. And also people kill them to eat them, people eat their eggs. We treat the injured turtles, we protect the eggs on the beach, we release all the babies to the sea, we also release the injured ones back into the sea.
Besides the babies, there are about 15 injured resident turtles. An albino turtle who is blind, turtles who have deformities, and most of all, turtles who have undergone surgery. The biggest injuries are caused by plastic.
Their stomachs get swollen up, so below near their back legs, you can see they have like a lot of skin where their stomach is, so they get swollen up, or their throats get swollen up. Or the main thing is, a turtle won't get washed up on the beach for no reason. If we find a turtle on the beach with no injuries on it, the main thing we know is that it has eaten plastic. Once we take it in our place, if it doesn't eat, it will be starving itself, or if the turtle is floating on the water, that means it has definitely consumed plastic. We operate them, get the plastic out, keep them here until they recover from their surgery.
Seeing the laborious trudge the turtle mum makes to lay her eggs, and then seeing little babies make their way into the sea, we know that some of them may never make it to adulthood. They would die horrendous deaths or be maimed for life, all because of our irresponsible use of plastic. Do your bit, say no to plastic and save our turtles. See you next week.